Now, I am a Christian, I am religious, but I'm trying to look at this more through the lens of history. But I do love hearing about these miracles attributed to workers and throughout history. Specifically, this well is created to honor a man named Saint Walstan, who died in the year 1016. Walstan was the son of Anglo-Saxon royalty. And in being the son of Anglo-Saxon royalty, he had a choice. He could either continue where he was going and just live a very affluent lifestyle, be rich, be influential and powerful, or he could follow the path of God. And he never really had any intention, as far as I've read, of following this path until he saw a vision from an angel. And this angel basically impressed on him the importance of humility and piety. And so he decided to walk from his home village. I believe it was either Blythburgh or Bawburgh. Either way, village would be in East Anglia somewhere. And he came to work locally as a farmhand. And he still has a reputation of working the most back-breaking, hard jobs. And he did this when he was only 12 years old. And he began his life as a farming apprentice. And throughout this time, he just dedicated his life to helping the common man. And of course, the farmers around here, this really impressed them because he was the son of royalty. Imagine if Obama's daughter just decided to go and do back-breaking work in the fields out in California where normally migrants pick the fruits, and just dedicated her life to that and to religious piety. Well, this is what was impressed on the farmers around here, who were working probably even harder than that because it was also like the year 1016. But he saw a vision from an angel, I believe, who told him that he was going to be dying soon, and he took his last rites and made his peace with God and died. And as they were transporting his body, 3 holy wells sprang up. And this is one of the things that I think is so fascinating about English history, the holy wells. Holy wells are interesting because they were really, really discouraged during Reformation because they tended to be more of a Catholic thing. But holy wells combined the pre-Christian pagan idea of a sort of womb from the earth. It's a very feminine idea where it would be sort of seen as a fertility thing. It was the sacred waters of the earth coming up. And they were often identified with Catholic saints or with, normal religious figures or sainthood. And it was actually on orders from the Pope at the time to, wherever possible, instead of crushing paganism completely, try to incorporate your church with pagan sites. And this is exactly what happened with the wells. Although if you follow the official storyline, these wells sprang up while transporting his body. Because as I said, he moved from his home village to this local church. And the ox cart stopped 3 times that was carrying his body. And in each place where the oxen cart stopped, a well sprang up. Now I believe that there is one more well that has been found, but it's not still active. The well was dried up. It's now on a golf course. This one is still very active. And this whole area around me, I'd love to show it. Beautiful. The only thing I would say is maybe at a park bench, because it really is a beautiful place to sit in the sunset. It's in the shadow of the church with a beautiful round tower, but behind me they have renovated it very recently because I think it was for the anniversary of his death, the 1,000-year anniversary. They abandoned the well for many, many years, but even after Reformation. Because keep in mind, Reformation, a shift from Catholicism in England to Protestantism. And I think this was pushed by Cromwell. I might be butchering this history, and I really apologize if I am, because I do like history. Cromwell came through and started saying that worshiping saints, or not worshiping, but having icons of saints and praying towards saints for your own enlightenment and your own spiritual fulfillment was heresy. So he considered wells like this to be heretical. And so for the next hundreds of years, pilgrims would come from the rural parts of England and from the farming villages, and these peasants and serfs would come to make the pilgrimage here to pray for successful crops, a good season, to pray for health if their farmhands became ill or if their animals became ill. They would also pray just for the humility that Walstan had. And during Reformation, I believe it was Cromwell who broke in through the church and found his body, because this naturally the bones, the icons, the clothes of these saints would be turned into religious relics, which at the time there was a lot of corruption because you would have to pay to touch them and to pray towards them. And from what I understand, because I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, I don't stick to a certain sect, but from what I understand, it's not a worship of the saint. It is the church saying this saint has been deemed a virtuous and good person, so instead of praying to God, which could very well, you could be praying for the wrong thing, you could be praying for money or wealth or power, you're praying towards somebody who you know is a virtuous person, and you can say, hey, pass my prayers up to the big man upstairs. But you had to go, back in those days, because it was more corrupt, through an intermediary, like a priest, and you had to pay them. And Cromwell said that this was essentially, he minimized it by saying, you're praying towards false idols, you're praying towards these bones, and so he broke into the chapel and scattered the bones across the fields. However, this didn't stop the farmers from making the pilgrimage here at all. And even though the well was really neglected for decades and hundreds of years, people still kept coming back to it and making these pilgrimages. And it's one of the longest, most interesting yet obscure pilgrimage places in England that I've been able to find so far. So here is St. Walstan's well, and I'll just do a little pan around so you can see this pretty little garden area. But if you look up here, you'll notice, if you are a local, that this is a very different kind of church than most other local churches. It's a round tower church, and round tower churches are very, very famous in Norfolk and Suffolk. I believe there's 38 in Suffolk and 124 in Norfolk. If you look around the rest of England, these are very rare. 99% of churches that you'll see, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them all across just one county in East Anglia, but 99% of them don't look like this. 99% of them are square. The reason why they're built as round towers indicates that they are much, much older. These were built by the Anglo-Saxons, and they were built more as a defensive structure. They were built to defend against raids by Vikings. And this is one of the ways that you can tell that a church here is truly, truly ancient. Well, I hope you guys liked the video, and I do plan on doing a more interesting series, little small series on these saints in, East Anglia and around England, because there's a lot of interesting characters that most people haven't heard of.